Imagine a teenager in 1950s London. It's past midnight. He stripped his motorcycle down to almost nothing, ripped off the fenders, ditched the mirrors, bolted on a racing seat. The engine screams. He launches from the curb outside a coffee shop and tears down the street at over 100 miles per hour. No helmet, no permission, no plan. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't insane. He was a cafe racer. And what he and thousands like him started would shape motorcycle culture for the next 70 years. And counting. To understand the cafe racer, you have to understand what Britain looked like after World War II. It was a country that had survived, barely. Cities were still scarred from bombings. Rationing didn't fully end until 1954. Opportunities were limited. Hope was hard to come by. But then came something unexpected. A generation of young men with restless energy, a little bit of money, and absolutely nothing to lose. Cars were expensive and out of reach. But motorcycles, especially old British bikes from brands like Triumph, Norton, and BSA, were affordable. And they were fast. These young men, mostly working class, began gathering at all-night transport cafes, greasy spoon diners that stayed open through the night, scattered across the roads outside London. The most famous of them all was the Ace Cafe, located on the North Circular Road in London, opened in 1938 and rebuilt after the war in 1949. The Ace Cafe became a cathedral for speed. Here's how it worked. A rider would put a song on the jukebox, usually something fast, something loud, like Eddie Cochran or Gene Vincent. Then he'd sprint outside, jump on his bike, and race down the road, trying to reach 100 miles per hour and get back before the song ended. 100 miles per hour. That was the magic number. Hit it, and you became a ton-up boy. The bikes they used weren't stock. They couldn't be. Standard road motorcycles of the time were built for comfort and reliability, not outright speed. So these riders began modifying them. They lowered the handlebars, replacing upright bars with clip-ons that forced the rider into an aggressive, aerodynamic crouch. They removed anything that created drag: fenders, chrome trim, bulky seats. They added a single-seat cowling, called a humped seat, or dust bin fairing, to cut through the air. The result was a motorcycle stripped to its absolute essence. Nothing extra, nothing unnecessary, just engine, frame, and purpose. This was the cafe racer. Of course, the establishment hated them. The British press called them hooligans. The police tried to crack down on the gatherings. Churches warned about their moral corruption. One 1964 headline in the Daily Mirror described them as vermin, who were terrorizing the roads. But the cafe racer riders had something the newspapers didn't understand: a code. They weren't senseless thugs. They were obsessed craftsmen. These men spent more time with a wrench in their hand than on a bar stool. Building a proper cafe racer took months of careful work, sourcing parts, modifying frames, tuning carburetors by hand. The bike was a statement of identity, a rolling self-portrait. The aesthetic was as important as the performance. Black leather jackets, grease-stained hands, patches on the back. The look was influenced by American rock and roll culture. Marlon Brando in The Wild One, Elvis on a Harley. But the machines they rode were unmistakably British. Triumph Bonneville, Norton Commando, BSA Gold Star. These were the icons of the era, and in the hands of cafe racer builders, they became something almost artistic. By the late 1960s and into the 1970s, the original cafe racer scene had faded. Japanese manufacturers, Honda, Kawasaki, Suzuki, Yamaha, had arrived and completely changed the market. Their bikes were cheaper, more reliable, and faster right out of the box. There was less need to modify. The old British marquees struggled, and many collapsed entirely. The Ace Cafe itself closed in 1969. For a while, it seemed like the Cafe Racer might disappear entirely. But here's the thing about great ideas: they don't die. In the late 1980s and through the 1990s, a new generation of riders discovered the old machines. They weren't looking for the fastest bike or the most technologically advanced. They wanted something real, something with soul. They began hunting for vintage Triumphs and Nortons in barns and junkyards, restoring them and modifying them in the same spirit as the original Ton-Up Boys. The Ace Cafe itself reopened in 2001. It is still open today. Today, the Cafe Racer has never been more popular. Major manufacturers have launched their own Cafe Racer lines. Triumph has the Thruxton. Ducati has the Sport Classic. Royal Enfield has built much of its modern identity around the style. Honda, BMW, and Kawasaki all offer machines clearly inspired by the 1950s aesthetic. Custom motorcycle culture, documented in magazines, social media accounts, and YouTube channels with millions of followers, places the Cafe Racer at its very center. Builders in Tokyo, Sao Paulo, Los Angeles, and Amsterdam all trace a direct line back to those late nights at the Ace Cafe in North London. What makes the Cafe Racer endure? Why does a style born in post-war austerity still resonate in an age of electric vehicles and autonomous driving? Perhaps because it represents something we all want, a machine that has been deliberately simplified. In a world of increasing complexity, a Cafe Racer is a refusal. Strip away everything that isn't necessary. Get low. Go fast. Feel the road beneath you. There is no algorithm, no assistance system, no safety net. Just you and the machine. The Ton-Up Boys didn't know they were creating a legacy. They were just trying to make it back before the song ended. 70 years later, the music is still playing. Outro. Call to action. So, what do you think made the Cafe Racer such an enduring symbol? Was it the speed, the style, or something deeper? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see more stories about the rebels and outsiders who shaped motorcycle history, subscribe, because we're just getting started.